Welcome to the 2022 Author Forum, Getting Started with ABA Publishing. We are so excited at GPSolo, Solo Small Firm and General Practice Division, to have our ABA staff publishing gurus, superstars here today to share with you everything that you need to know about being an ABA author, becoming an ABA author. And if you would like to put your email and your contact information in the chat, we will reach out to you if you want to be an ABA author. We'll reach out to you personally after this program. Today, we're going to have, a little bit later, we'll have a visit from our chair, Stephen Curley. He has really wanted to make an emphasis this year on author appreciation and also outreach for ABA authors, potential ABA authors. So let me introduce our panel real quick, and then we'll get started into the nuts and bolts of the program. First, we have our chair of the pub board, Tom Urquhart. Tom, say hi to everybody.
Hello, everybody.
And Tom, I'm looking for his he's the new chair of the Book Publications Board. We also have Donna Gollmer.
Hello.
She's our rock star. We got her, we stole her from the big publisher. She's been with the ABA for 5 years. She's the ABA Director of Publishing. She leads and manages the strategic growth and operation of the ABA's publishing enterprise, which is a primary member benefit and source of non-dues revenue. That's what we like, non-dues revenue. And we've also got Bryan K, ABA,
hi, everybody.
the Division Director of Publishing. He's been with us for 20 years. I think I've known him that long too. He works with the ABA's content licensing partners and helps negotiate new licensing agreements to distribute and sell ABA books and periodicals content. Bryan was also a presenter on the ABA's very first ever virtual seminar that we had back in, I think it was either 2009 or 2010.
Oh my gosh, that's right, Melanie.
Yeah, in St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands, and we were all there, and we had them Skyping in, and that was just super high tech and super fun. So it's going to be great to hear from Bryan. Then we've also got our editor, ABA Publishing, Lorraine Murray.
Hello.
Yeah, and she manages the editorial operations of multiple ABA book publications, but we want her all to ourselves. We want her to just pay attention to us, right? But she's responsible for the managing, budgeting, scheduling, editing, production, and distribution of legal content. She really does the work of like 20 people, so she's just amazing. And then we've also got my favorite editor, Robert Salkin.
Hi.
Yes, he's the ABA periodical person, and he's got 20 years at the ABA, and he oversees the production of GPSolo magazine and the GPSolo e-report in all formats, HTML, PDF, EPUB, email. He coordinates with the editorial boards to plan future issues, edits articles. He's the best editor ever, interacts with authors, and works with freelancers and internal ABA staff in the GPSolo division and in design, advertising, and digital publishing to produce each issue. And guess what? Before we start, we have our chair, Steve Curley, and he is the reason why we're here today. So let me turn it over to him to talk to you for just a minute about why he's so dedicated to ABA publishing.
Well, thank you very much, Melanie. And if I had to use two words to sum up why I'm here, it's Melanie Bragg. Because things have really, I believe, turned around in our publishing over the last short period of time. Melanie's become re-engaged with our pub board, our new pub board chair, Tom Urquhart, I've already seen on the line. And this is, I'd like to think of as the beginning of the process in the presentations that we have lined up over the next several days. This is the beginning of the pipeline. This is the beginning of getting used to the notion that you too could be an author, and you've got a ready-made staff of publishers and editors really at your fingertips to really get you going and launch you into this world. And let's face it, if you didn't have this support system, the chances of you making it as an author would be far lower than what you get the advantage of by being a member of the ABA, and in particular a member of GPSolo, to get your authorship career up and running. I know the presentations later as we go through this are going to be sort of the ending of the process. I see this as the place where the inspiration can really germinate and find real fertile ground to grow with this type of professional staff to help us out. The presentations we'll see a little bit later, I think, are just as important in appreciating the authors that we do get, recognizing them and promoting them, and hopefully encouraging them to write again and to build on that success. But I have to say the real bridge that brings us all together is Melanie, and I want to go back to Melanie and hand this back off to her, because we've been discussing this type of a program for many years. And it, although the years and this year as chair has been kind of challenging with whether I'm going to be virtual, whether I'm going to be have a live meeting, who's going to be showing up, that Melanie's been one of the constants for me over the last several years. So Melanie, hats off to you. Let's kick off this whole program. And hopefully over the next couple of days, we'll not only inspire folks to write for us, but appreciate those who have already done it for us.
Thank you so much. We've got the best staff. We've got the best ABA publishing people. I just love it. I want to let you know that we're going to add a 20% discount code for ABA books that'll be linked to any of the authors' books tomorrow. When you hear from the authors, you'll be able to get a 20% discount. You're also going to get a link to the ABA book publishing author guidelines, editorial and marketing, and a link to proposal forms. And we've already got one person who's sent their email to be a prospective author. So that's great. A little bit of housekeeping here before we begin. For questions, there's a Q&A. If you have a question, just pop it into the chat and make sure and try to put in boldface, all caps, question, so that we can, distinguish the question in front of the questions in the chat feature, so the moderator may easily distinguish it from chatting. And please remember to mute your mic if you're not speaking. And if you can be seen, make sure you know your camera's on. We all know why we're saying that. So good. I've gotten through all that. So basically, today is about the ABA publishing staff, about ABA publishing, why be an ABA author, and the process from the back side, the staff side. Tomorrow at 11 a.m. Central Time, we're doing Getting It Done. And we're going to have a group of amazing authors, wonderful subjects about what inspired them to write their books, the process of how they got it done, just getting through it, tips for prospective authors to know what they're getting into and how to get it done. And also some really interesting content, law of first responders, law of arts and collecting arts and collectibles, really interesting things. The Lawyer Millionaire, that's going to be interesting. We all want to do that. And then Friday afternoon at 1 p.m. So now you're published. So what do we do now? So some of our premier ABA authors who've been amazing marketers and amazing people that have really, the ABA publishing is not going to do all the work for you. The heavy lifting is done by the authors. And so they tell you their tips and secrets on how they have become very successful authors and how they've leveraged their author status in their own practices. So that's another advantage. It's a hidden advantage that you don't really realize when you're writing your book. So hopefully at the end of this, everybody will be inspired to become an ABA author and to come with us, GPSolo, because we'll take you from the beginning to the end and really make it worth your while. So let's talk to Donna. Donna, tell me a little bit about the ABA publishing, what inspired you to come with us, and then a little bit about your journey so far.
Thank you so much, Melanie. Thanks to everyone who's attending today. I'm happy to be here, and I'm excited that you're all interested in publishing with us, publishing with GPSolo. So I came to the ABA about 5 years ago, and I was in academic publishing. Prior to that, I worked for Pearson Education for many, many years. I've really enjoyed my 5 years at the ABA. I like the size of our list. We publish roughly 100 to 110 books per year across all of the different practice areas. Some groups publish more than others. GPSolo does a great job of putting out great content year after year. ABA publishing, we are the voice of the profession when it comes to publishing books. We do substantive books, both on broad topics as well as niche topics. We're open to ideas on anything, and surprisingly, we have books on very topics that you would not think of. We have a book in GPSolo on equine law. We have books on pet custody. We have books on anything you can think of. So they're targeted at attorneys, and the goal is really for our books to help make better lawyers. So I was excited about coming here to do that, and we've been very successful in doing that, and it's been an exciting time. We distribute our books obviously in print form as well as ebook via our web store, which is the link that you see up there right now. We also sell our products obviously through all the various retail outlets such as Amazon, Barnes and Noble. And then we have a growing licensing business, and I won't steal Bryan's thunder because Bryan is responsible for that growing licensing business, and he'll be talking about that a little bit after this. So that's been really exciting, and we're trying to make sure, meet the customers where they are. So if they're wanting their content on some of these digital subscription platforms, the larger legal platforms, we are there. So that is really good because the market is obviously changing, and while many people are still reading print books and others are reading books on their devices, there is a movement to sort of the all-you-can-eat model of some of the legal platforms that are out there. So another reason to publish with us is, we love books, and we have many lawyers in our group. So we love books as much as you do. We like the process. We like working with you all the way through the process, and we're there every step of the way for you. So, that's great. And compared to some commercial publishing houses, we're conservative in our approach to acquisition, but we're willing to take risks that sometimes the bigger publishing houses aren't willing to do on mission-based titles. So, the goals of the ABA are to serve our members, advocate for the profession, enhance diversity, and advance the rule of law. And we do many books on all of those topics. So, anyway, thanks for coming.
It's quite a plum in an author's cap to be published by the ABA. Would you say?
Yes, it is. And there's, a real desire for our content and ABA published content. So I think it's very valuable content to the outside world and to our members as well.
Great. Well, Bryan, tell us a little bit about publishing and where it's been and where it's going. I know you've got some exciting things to share with us.
Thank you, Melanie. And those are great questions. So first, to kind of frame it, let me talk about what has not changed for ABA Publishing. And that is thanks to the amazing volunteer members that we have, like Melanie, and the publishing entities that we have, like GPSolo. The ABA historically and still is a publisher of amazing size and scale. So every year we publish thousands of new articles. And as Donna alluded to, every year we publish at least 110 new titles, some entirely new in entirely different areas that commercial publishers would not risk. And in some years that number creeps. If you look at the entire geography of the ABA, that number rises to nearly 150. So if you are an aspiring author, there is enormous opportunity. So what has changed? Well, everybody knows just from personal experience how dislocating the pandemic has been over time, both professionally and in your personal life. The same is true for publishing. So many of our buyers and users and members are still working remotely or working under hybrid circumstances where their office life has changed and their access to research libraries is very different. So what we have seen is an incremental rise from our users, buyers, and members in requests for ABA content in digital format and online format. And what does that mean? So first of all, they want to see more of our ebooks sooner and more accessibly. They also want to see more ABA content online on some of the traditional research databases that you're all familiar with, like Lexis, like Hein Online. So what have we done to answer that demand? We've done several things. One, we've been much more active and much more deliberate about making sure that our ebooks are available as soon as the print version is available. We have a wonderful relationship with LexisNexis. They are a primary ebook partner for us. They have a large catalog of ABA content And so we make sure that our ebooks get to them, and then they have a sales force that are selling those ebooks. And then Donna has worked for them to create some ebook packages where librarians can purchase ABA content more comprehensively. We also have done improvements to our own web store, so it's easier to download ebooks there as well. And we're making a more concerted effort to get those ebooks to Amazon, to Barnes and Noble, where people can find them. So that's going on. And then the other thing that we've done is we've been much more active with our traditional partners in licensing our book and article content. So Thomson Reuters, Bloomberg, Lexis, Hein Online, all of them have more of our content. We've also sought out new partners as well. Fastcase, which is a rising business, and then also Live Carta, which is a startup business that's entirely devoted to law school access, and then VLEX, which is also a dynamic new startup with a much larger international audience. So if you are an author writing for the ABA, yes, there are challenges in the marketplace today, but what you will find is that your book will be on more platforms than it ever has been before. Then the other thing that we're doing that I think is enormously exciting, and Melanie and I were talking about this earlier, is that Donna and I and publishing have been partnering with the student lawyer division and the young lawyer division, which are enormously dynamic and also enormous. And they don't publish books, but what they do is they are constantly looking for fresh content, short versions, 500 to 700 words that they can share with their membership. And they also track readership as well. So one of the things that we've started doing is recommending that our book authors write those 500 to 700 word articles based on the book that they're doing, share it with the student lawyers and the young lawyers, and then let their enormous audience see that content. And they're avid for that information. So there is definitely opportunity for us there, and we're excited about that. And Melanie, that is a quick snapshot.
Oh yeah, that is awesome. I mean, that was just packed. We could take each piece of that and talk about it for about an hour, but we're going to keep going here. Give Lorraine a little airtime. Lorraine Murray, tell us a little bit about the nuts and bolts of publishing. So start with the proposal. How does that work and why? You know, just so they understand what's a proposal.
Well, nuts and bolts. I think we have the nuts covered. I would like to, if you like, start even further back than the proposal to talk about ideas for books.
Yeah,
and where I'm from, and then I'll get to the real nuts and bolts. I wanted to say ABA authorship is, as we've established, an elite club, but it's not an exclusive one. Each entity, like a forum division or section that publishes with ABA Publishing, has its own book program and its own way of doing things, about which I'll say a little bit more in a few minutes, or probably a minute. But there are goals common to each entity for its book program to advance the profession, provide valuable guidance and information to the legal profession through its publications, to nurture members' careers and contributions to their ABA entity and their field, and, as we've touched on before, to create revenue, non-dues revenue, for the entity through book sales so that it can continue its missions. So there are many reasons why an ABA entity such as GPSolo wants to publish books by its members and other professionals, for its members and for the legal profession in many specialties. I work with a number of ABA sections, forums, and divisions, and the largest and most active is GPSolo. We publish between 5 and 10 books each year, but we would like to increase that number. So we are always looking for book proposals. Before I get into the details of what is a book proposal and how to do one, let me say that speaking to prospective authors, there are a few ways books come about. One is, what is the main thrust of these author sessions at the mid-year meeting is members who have a legal book idea and want to publish with an established publisher who has a significant reputation. One thing we should point out is that not only can you be the author of a book, i.e. writing it yourself or with a contributor, you could also be an editor / project manager. You would commission chapters from colleagues on a subject of your choice, but in either case, we receive the proposal either through our online portal or on the ABA Publishing web pages, the link to which we're going to put in the chat, or through a book board member contact or liaison. The mention of multi-author books brings me to another way projects come to us. Member-edited books are frequently the product of an enter-team membership committee, which reviews the field and the section's past publications and identifies a needed book topic. Then the committee organizes the project, developing a table of contents, assigning chapters to contributors, coordinating submission, revision, and review of the chapters, and submitting to ABA Publishing. This scenario is not as often the case with GPSolo, though if you are in the audience, are on a committee and have an idea for a book that could be handled in this way, we encourage you to do so. No one knows the subject like you, and a committee-led book is going to hit the right audience with timely information. And it also involves less of the hard labor of writing and bearing the sole responsibility for work. And thirdly, books come to us through the book board and its members. They will survey the field, topics in the news will suggest themselves and say, oh, I think there's a book in this. They identify a topic and work with their network and fellow attorneys elsewhere to find an author, then help shape the idea and guide the proposal writing process as necessary. We do, as Donna said, publish everything from big treatises to narrow fundamental treatments. And this is a kind of a special strength, I think, for GPSolo because of the wide variety of practices that people have and the variety of things that they're called on to do. The key is identifying a gap in the literature and resources and providing something that immediately aids practitioners and judges, students, etc. And handbooks and practice guides are our bread and butter. Some examples include the Equine Law and Horse Sense book that was published a couple of years ago by GPSolo and was sort of a surprise hit. It is very much a niche subject. The author is a horse enthusiast and attorney, and she was able to parlay her networks, speaking engagements and so forth, into really good success. You would think that the audience might be limited, but you can see through such efforts how we can reach other audiences. It's a book about, legal liability and best practices. It's a good book for people who are, run a horse facility and so forth. So if there's a special subject that you're interested in that has a legal, practical aspect to it, that's a good thing. It's a good possibility for a book.
Thank you, Lorraine. That is so interesting and awesome. We never know which books are going to hit and be the big hits. So thank you for that information. So let's move on to Rob Salkin. Rob, I know from personal experience, you are the editor extraordinaire. You've been with the ABA for 20 years. Yeah, he works with me every month on my columns, and I'm always like right at the deadline, and he's got more patience of Job. But talk to us a little bit about the subject matter we wanted you here for was how people can get started writing, dip their toe into it by starting to write articles for our e-report or our magazine, but then also when they've got a book proposal in, they can write little pieces of articles and start pre-promoting their book even before it comes out, helping them build their platforms as authors. So tell us a little bit about what you do and how that fits in with your plan.
Yeah, well, at the periodical side, we have two different magazines. One is the GPSolo magazine, which is the longer form magazine, comes out every other month and it's generally based on a theme for the issue. And then the other publication is GPSolo e-report, and that is made up of shorter articles, about 800 to 1200 words, and there is no theme. And that's, I think, the one that would really help out in this particular area, because we're always looking for content, and it doesn't have to be about a particular theme or a particular area of law. So if you have an idea of something that you'd like to write, we would love to see it. So it can, as Melanie said, it can help out both on the front end and on the back end. If you're looking to get your toes wet and to try a bit of writing, you don't have to start with a book. Books are scary. You don't necessarily want to start, oh my God, I got to write 200 pages worth of book. You can write 800 words worth of an article and see if you like the writing process, kind of feel out areas which you think would be of interest to you and maybe to other readers, therefore, and you can do it that way in short chunks. And then at the end of the day, maybe you'll find that you have enough rolling that you can actually turn into a book, and you can get involved then with Lorraine on that side of it and kind of take it from there. On the back end of it, once the book has been finished, you can also help to both to promote and also perhaps to get some sales going as well. If you can do one of those 500 to 700 words synopses that Bryan was talking about, and get it not just into the young lawyer or to the student lawyer, but we can actually publish it here in-house in GPSolo e-report as well. We can also have short blurbs on the bottom of the main page. We can have book reviews written by other authors in the division of your book. So there's lots of good ways to get it rolling that way. And as I said, on the front end, we're always looking for content. We're always looking for good ideas for magazine articles. So you can either send them to me. I think that all of my information for contacts will be available from this somehow. Robert.Salkin@AmericanBar.org.
Right, that's exactly what I was going to ask
right.
you. Where can they get in touch with you?
Send it to me, or you can also send it to me and CC Ashley Helene, who is the editor-in-chief of GPSolo e-report, and she can also help to figure out what you want to write, what are the ideas which might turn into a good article, and then start the process going. I mean, once you've got it going, it doesn't have to have by a particular due date, because as I said, there's no themes for this magazine.
Right.
So whenever you want to write, you can get it into us, and then we can get the job rolling from there. Bring it to our ed board, have them take a peek at it, approve it, and then start off, and it can get going in as little as, if you get us an article 1 month, it can see the report the next month. So it's a quick turnaround. And if you want to use it as a way to give yourself shorter deadlines to write a bit here and then a bit next month and a bit the next month after that, it's a good way to break it down into smaller bite-sized pieces that aren't as scary.
Right. And we also have analytics, so we can tell what kind of, who all has looked at that, and we know who's looking at what after the fact. So thank you so much, Rob. We'll get back to what we'll circle back to you. So basically, we're going to go back and pick back up with Donna. We're going to ask Donna about what does she see as the future of ABA publishing.
Thank you, Melanie. So as I listened to all the other presenters, everyone did a great job. I start to think through sort of what our focus has been the last few years and where we're going. And I really want to go back to what Bryan talked about first. If we're talking about the book side as well as periodicals, is our licensing. Licensing is really a small percentage of our book sales at this point, but it's a large percentage of our periodical revenues. But it's a growing side of the book sales. And I think it's, if you look at it, it's sort of the equivalent of a Netflix or Apple Music. It's sort of that. People are, they are consuming content in a different way. Many people, particularly a younger audience, is consuming content in a different way. So we're trying to do everything we can. We have such great content. We're always looking for more content, but we have such great content that we used as a member benefit, but we also like to make non-dues revenue off of that content. So while we distribute books, and I don't see that stopping, I think print books are going to go on for a very long time, and there's audiences that love print. There's a growing audience that wants to access content in their own way, particularly short form content on these legal research platforms. So Bryan has done an excellent job of not only focusing on the existing market leaders in that space, which would be your LexisNexis and Westlaw and Bloomberg. We also are growing and trying to expand out to some other platforms such as Fastcase, VLEX, LifeCarta. They all have different audiences. Some are for the state bars, some are for law schools. We do have a growing business, I would say, in the law school market. We're always getting questions about, do we have content on specific topics? And I think that that's something that we'll be focusing on going forward as well, is getting into the hands of law students with our content, which makes them, loyal to the ABA from the very beginning. So I think the future, we're going to be focusing on growing, obviously, continuing to acquire the best content, both with, like Rob, with the periodical side, and Lorraine on the book side. And then how can we amplify that content? How can we earn revenue off of that content? How can we make that content the most valuable to our members? So I think that's the way we're going, is that way. Just have the content created in whatever platform it's needed. So I think, as long as we have the content, we can sell it and distribute it in many different ways. So
it's not just lawyer author. My HIPAA book, if you can believe this, is being used in a paralegal school as recommended reading. So even there's all kinds of other offshoots of, some of our books go to experts in different fields, the paralegal, we probably haven't even tapped that. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways to use our books and our content, and we're breaking it down into little bite-sized pieces too, right?
Right. So, chapters are, increasingly important as we move to that sort of a model. So, I think that, we're having a great success, and we're being very strategic in where we put our content as well. We're not just throwing it out there, and we're being very targeted. So certain platforms have different types of attorneys that are doing different types of research, whereas a Bloomberg may have business law and litigation. Other platforms maybe have a broader audience. So we're trying to be more strategic, because the more widely you license your content, the less you earn for it. So we're being very strategic and trying to be, meet people where they are looking for that type of content. And our brand, the ABA brand, and our name is very reputable in the market. So they're always wanting to partner with us on content initiatives.
So is the future bright for ABA publishing?
Oh, I think so. Yes.
That's good.
We're heading in the right direction, thanks to the hard work of everyone on this call. And also the volunteer members as well.
Yes, it's awesome. So Bryan, why don't you share with us some of the successes of ABA publishing and some of the secrets that you want to share with our audience?
Absolutely, thank you.
About
Melanie.
why should they publish with us?
Well, it's interesting this year. I think one of the things that's happened is because of some of the changes that have gone on, the kind of personal relationships between user, librarian, and publishing have grown. And Donna and a few other people in publishing have really spearheaded that. And so one of the things that have changed, one of the successes that we've had this year that continues to unfold, is that the number of bulk orders that we have received is higher than for this time in any previous year. And that's and that has a lot to do with the fact that, Donna and others are having these conversations, and then they have led to buying. And also some of that buying has gone on with law schools, which in the past we just have not had very much success with. And then the other thing that's going on is that I think we're really managing, as Donna alluded to, managing well the tension between selling print and then also selling digital versions of our content as well. We're able to sustain both. So that's good news for authors. That means they have a sustained presence on both sides of the house, selling it in print and also selling it digitally as well, which is enormously important. Then if you kind of drill down into that, if you look at the success of particular books across the ABA, and Lorraine talked about a good example for GPSolo. If you look at some other content that the ABA has developed and sold, the common denominator is that the author early on is very involved, as you well know from your own experience, in the distribution and the marketing of the book. And what we have seen for books that have really leapt and have done well and received notoriety, the authors help with that distribution. They, as you said, they do CLE, they present, they do seminars, they make appearances, and that has sustained a number of books, you know, beyond the typical age range that a book would normally have in certain cases. The other thing that goes on that we've talked about is if you look at those books, regardless of their length, the chapters are shorter. They're super well organized. And then if you look at sort of the table of contents is very detailed. The subheadings are lovely, so that if you're a user, you can dive into it and find your research efficiently without having to fumble around and then leave and do the work that you need to do. The other thing that's interesting is that for these books, the authors themselves have really, really thought about the marketing message as to why you should buy that book. And two great examples. One, David Tolan has written a book on tech contracts. And he has a lovely website that goes with it. And if you look at it, he says, what's the benefit? And basically he says, look, if you're negotiating these tech contracts and you're learning by doing it, then you're going to make mistakes that cost your firm or your business money. And he says, basically, if you use it, my content, this book, then you avoid those mistakes and you'll avoid losing money. And then there's a wonderful legal writing book by Judge Robert Backrack. And he has organized his book in the same way that a lawyer would write and construct a successful brief. So starting at the beginning, with the larger framing and then going into the details of the brief. He's organized it that way so it follows the flow of how a lawyer would actually do the work in building a brief. And then also frankly, it reflects, as he has shared, it reflects what judges like to see, and who wouldn't want that? So those are two good examples to think about as you think about your own book as an aspiring author.
Wonderful. Thank you, Bryan, so much for sharing that with us. So Lorraine, what can an author expect in the editing process and the completion of the manuscript? Walk us through the life cycle of a book.
Okay, thanks, Melanie. And I realize I went over in my original segment, for which I apologize. I over-prepared. Let me just run through.
No, we love the information, so no problem.
Okay. Well, I won't go through the nuts and bolts of the proposal form. I have put a link to it in the chat. But I will say that the chances of, to increase the chances of your proposal being accepted is to really research the market and identify recent developments, thoroughly present what distinguishes your idea versus what is in the marketplace, provide a working outline or proposed table of contents, and drilling down enough to show the scope and the intended audience, etc. After the proposal
They don't have to have their book finished, do they?
Oh, no. If you have a sample chapter, that always helps, but it's not necessary. You just have to have your idea and fairly fleshed out so that the book board can judge. After the proposal comes to the book board, which meets monthly and quarterly, I develop a business case with marketing and production, then present the proposal at the next quarterly meeting or sometimes a monthly meeting. It could be voted on as is, or we may go back to the author with questions and suggestions for refining or augmenting the content. And once we have that from you, we will put it to the board again for a vote. And once a book is approved, we move ahead to the contract stage, and I will be your contact from there on. Now, nuts and bolts of editing, I will run through quickly. You receive a lot of support along the way. If it's approved, your liaison would usually be assigned to be a sounding board when you're drafting the book, and when the manuscript is complete, a peer reviewer would give it a substantive review to be sure the entity is satisfied with direction and quality. And once that happens, once it passes the final peer review, you submit the revised manuscript to me, and we move it on to professional copy editors, indexers, proofreaders, and designers. So even though the authors do the writing on your own, you're not by yourself. And if you have any questions along the way, I'm here to help.
And Lorraine, do they have, is there an author liaison that is there a liaison from the book board that works with the author? Kind of, you interface with them, but they also get to interface
Yes.
with the book board too?
Yes, they
Okay.
certainly can. Yeah, during the manuscript stages.
Yeah, and we also try to get them hooked up with articles and periodicals and CLE speaking opportunities, kind of like what we're doing tomorrow with the authors. So there's a lot of author appreciation coming from, a lot of love coming from us to the authors, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we're here to support you.
Yeah, we have to nurture our authors. So I know you do a great job at that.
If I could just say quickly, because authors often ask what to expect. First of all, people ask, who will be my editor now once the contract is signed? Me, I will be. I'm the book editor for GPSolo. And I will continue to be involved. So once the book goes into production, the author is still involved at various stages, reviewing page proofs, reviewing copy editing, answering any queries from the production team, and review of the index, which we produce. And the production editing vendors will work with the author throughout the process, and first we'll check the production schedule out with you to accommodate any conflicts.
Peer reviews. So the books are peer reviewed by the book board members, right?
Yes, they are. And that's how we get to the final manuscript, the final draft that goes to production.
Wonderful, wonderful. What an exciting, it's a lot of work. I mean, authors, you know, that you have to know it's everybody thinks it's so easy, and it is a lot of work, but it's well worth it, because when you see your baby in print, it's just, and you're now an author as opposed to an author wannabe. It's an amazing feeling. So thanks for sharing all that with us, Lorraine.
I can also say something about post-production marketing if you like, but if we want to move on to something else, that's okay. Okay, so after the book comes out, it usually takes about 5 months from the final manuscript. There are a lot of activities we can do to help promote the book, in addition to what you do, as I think Melanie has some tips on that. We have a regular hot off the press series of podcasts, which is a GPSolo production. It's an interview with the author or editor of a book, and it goes up on the GPSolo web pages. Rob talked about how periodicals are involved. We could place ads and reviews. And the division might also like to have you do a CLE or webinar, and we can support you in any speaking engagements you have by providing a flyer and order form. We can help arrange bulk buys at a discount to law firms and universities if applicable. And just in conclusion, it is in the division, the book board, and the ABA's interest to produce high quality books. So we're all invested with you in making sure that happens. So just ask for any support you need along the way.
Lorraine, that's great. I mean, that really, you know, I can tell that anybody that's watching that wants to get a book done, they're going to want to do it with us. Thank you for that. Really appreciate it. So Rob, I'm coming back to you one more time for a little swing through.
Okay.
And, so what advice would you give aspiring authors?
I would say if you want to write, the best way is to write. So get into contact with me or with one of the other ed board members on the e-report, and email us and see if you have any idea which you think might be fun to write about. And that's kind of part of the point as well, is it should be something that's like fun for you to do. It should be something that you are interested in and that you want to think about some more. And I've often felt that when you're thinking about things and you have a idea about what you might want to think about, write it, because you really haven't really thought about it until you begin to write it. Put your keyboard on, start typing away, perhaps do a bit of research if you need to, and that's when the ideas really start to flow. And a good way to do that is in a short little article for the e-report, and you can then figure out what it is that you want to tackle, what it is that about this particular idea that is of most interest to you and that would make a good book, perhaps. So get into contact with us, email me, see if there's a topic. As I said, very flexible scheduling. If you can get it in this month, good. If you can get it in next month, good. If you get it in the month after that, I'll bug you a bit, and then you'll get it in the month after that. And that way you can begin to actually write. And that's when you get really a sense of what you want to do, and you can get excited about what it is that you're doing. And that's the way to finish a book, is to get
Right.
interested in it.
Right.
So-
I started out with my first chapter in how to capture and keep clients in 2005, Jennifer Rose's book. I did a chapter, and that was just, I mean, like, a chapter was a really big deal. I still remember the feelings of just having that first chapter, but that was the beginning. And then it one chapter leads to another chapter. And then all of a
Right.
sudden you've got a bunch of chapters end up being a book,
Yeah. So that's it. Just if you want to write, write.
Just
And-
right.
and-
It's very
and-
simple.
And we can help you do that in a fairly painless and not terribly scary manner. 800 words, 1200 words, dig in, see if you like it, see where else it might go in like the next chapter or like the next article, write again for us. And then by the time you get a good sense of it, you can start writing up that little prospectus that Lorraine was talking about, and you can be off to the races, as they say.
And there's nothing like getting an email from someone you don't know when your column or your article has touched them, and they come back and they give you that feedback, because you're kind of like, sometimes when you're writing, you're in a vacuum, you don't really know if what you're saying and what you're communicating is landing. So it's really great to get that feedback, and I always try to share those with you too. So it's a lot of fun. Well, listen, we're getting to sort of the end of our program, and I'd like to bring in the Book Publications Board Chair for this year, Tom Urquhart. Tom, why don't you say a little bit about ABA Publishing and just your commitment to authors in the form of the book board that you're leading now?
Sure, happy to. Oh, let me introduce myself first. My name's Tom Urquhart. I've been involved with the ABA for about 9 years. I formerly served on the GPSolo Council. Like Melanie said, I currently serve as the GPSolo Book Publication Board Chair, and I'm also involved in LAMB as a member of the Standing Committee on Legal Affairs for Legal, Legal Assistance for Military Personnel. Forgot the acronym there for a second, LAMB. So no, I'm just very happy with the progress we've made this year, and looking forward to hopefully getting more people interested in writing for us. That's our goal. So I think we're making great progress in doing that. And I just want to remind everyone to tune in, if possible, to our next two programs tomorrow, Getting It Done and So You're Published, Now What? So I think those are going to be some great programs with some of our authors who we have as guest speakers. So appreciate it, and thank you very much.
It's going to be so much fun. I can't wait. Both of the programs tomorrow are going to be so awesome. Well, listen, we've got a couple of good questions. The first one is, and anybody on our panel that has anything else to add, please. We've got 9 minutes to go through this, but we did have a question. For books that are, this is from William Schmidt, for books that are about the practice of law, how heavy does the research or footnotes need to be? Who wants to tackle that one?
I can.
Okay.
It really just depends on the area. We rely on the author, since the author is a splendid expert in the area that he or she is writing in, in terms of the extent of the footnoting that is required. So, the other thing that's really great is that you will get feedback from your peers on the book board on that very subject at the beginning, at the proposal stage, and then also during the peer review process. So if they have a feeling, if your peer reviewer has a feeling that a particular area needs more footnoting than it has, then that will be constructively and positively shared. But we are very, as Donna shared, we're a very author-centric business, and we are very supportive and trusting of our authors and trusting of their expertise. So we look to them to sort of set the mark in terms of how detailed the footnoting needs to be.
Okay, thank you so much. And Rob, maybe you can also answer that in terms of the e-report and magazine articles. How heavy are they into footnotes?
The GPSolo magazine generally doesn't run footnotes as such. Frequently, there are some minor citations within the run of a sentence or a text. The GPSolo e-report has a bit more notes in them, but again, as Bryan said, it kind of depends upon the nature of the article and of the topic at hand. I can only say that for the magazines, if you want to write on a topic that doesn't include notes, there's a way to do that if you can couch it in a particular way. If you can come at it in a way that is not citation heavy, if it's a broader look at a particular topic on the magazine side, that's certainly possible.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, the next question comes from Maria Goretti Tai, and she said, if I may not have the time to write a whole book, can I invite someone to co-author? That's one question, and I think Lorraine is going to take that one. And then, or would you suggest co-authoring with on distribution? Do you sell in bookshops, Amazon, internationally? Okay, so Lorraine, tackle the first part of that, and then Donna follow up and take the second part of that question. Thank you.
I put part of the answer in the chat, but the answer is yes. We would encourage you to share the work with a co-author if it's somebody that you think you can work with. The other part of that question was, would you have names to suggest co-authoring with? And that is not really something we usually do, but I think you know best who you'll work best with and who has the same sort of background and knowledge that you do on the topic.
Yeah, but I mean, we would pitch it if they needed somebody. We would all put our heads together and brainstorm and see if we could come up with somebody for sure, wouldn't we?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we can't guarantee that we would. So, so Donna, how about tackling that next part?
Sure, I'm happy to. So on distribution, we do obviously sell on our own Shop ABA website. We sell on Amazon and any other retailer. We have a retail distributor who distributes both domestically and internationally. So we can sell our books in Canada, Europe. We have distributors pretty much worldwide. So we do make sometimes a decision to delay the release of our books to third parties such as Amazon for a few months. So we highlight them on our own website first and then release them out into the wild. So but we can have your book anywhere.
So are law schools still buying up books the way they used to, or has that plan changed?
Law schools are still buying print books for the most. I mean, they're moving slowly, very slowly. I thought higher ed was slow, but law schools are moving to more of the digital platforms and to ebooks. But they still, I would say, most of the law schools that we serve are still buying our print books.
Okay, awesome. And it's really an honor to get to be here today and share this information with you guys. I know it's going to be a lot more people than are here today, but we appreciate everybody that's here. We appreciate our staff for being so committed to us, our book board, all of our book board members, and thank you so much for all of our speakers, our panelists, and everybody who's joined us today. And please tune in tomorrow at 11 a.m. and at 1 p.m. For two great author programs. You'll get to meet some of our wonderful authors and hear more about how to get the book done and what to do after the book is done. Thank y'all. See everybody.